Good afternoon, everybody. We're so glad you could join us today for our weekly Q&A. I'm Sharon Spurlock. I'm the Family Education Director at the St. Louis Arc, and our guest today is Aaron Milligan from Gray Matters Alliance. He's going to talk to us about all things enabling technology, which is one of my favorite topics, as you know. So, without further ado, Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you to let people know a little bit about who you are and what Gray Matters Alliance is.
My name is Aaron Milligan. I've been in the field of OT for 34 years now. I always tell people I've been doing this since I was 11 years old. My father was a traumatic brain injury when I was 11 years old, and he was severely handicapped from that. And it sort of led my life. I learned about what therapy is. Decided to get in the field of OT when I was like 11 years old. So that's what I did, and that's what I've done. My background is I've run many skilled rehab departments, long-term care. After I got out of the clinic, I started to learn how to build wheelchairs out of parts for people with no insurance and sold durable medical equipment. And then I met my partner, Vicky. Her and I own Gray Matters Alliance together, and I am kind of the clinical assessment side, whereas Vicky is more of our business side. So what I plan to do today is really open your eyes to a how holistically assistive technology can be used in so many aspects of an individual's life. So I'm going to share my screen here for a minute. So as you see this kind of wheel, what we're going to do is we're going to go through an entire cycle of every aspect we can look at using assistive technology. And again, I'm going to keep this very broad. I don't want to make this just about Gray Matters Alliance. I will throw a few things in, but this is a general talk about assistive technologies and what it can do. So there's many other companies. We work well with them. There's no such thing as a competitor in our business. It's about getting the job done and sharing our ideas and doing the best we can for individuals. So that being said, I'll call this our compass, if you will. I'm going to start with ADLs, activities of daily living, and these are your basic everyday life skills. So what can assistive technology do about that? First of all, we have embedded into our programs, it's not just giving someone a schedule that says, hey, it's time to do this, but it's about learning how to do that task, following step-by-step instructions or creating a customized video that will pop up when it's time to do that activity. So I don't care if it's taking out the trash, making a bed, doing laundry, money management, cooking, it's all those skills that involve wherever that person's at. I don't care what age. Our youngest client was 18 months old. Our oldest client currently is 97. So everywhere in between. It doesn't matter your living environment either. You could be in an ISL. You could be living at home with your parents. You could be learning to live alone in your own apartment for the first time. It doesn't matter the environment. We can create learning at any level, at any age. Okay, so the next I want to talk about is commonly people don't think about assistive technology as health and medical monitoring. So we actually, in many of our companies, have the ability to do Bluetooth vitals. So someone takes their measurements and it gets kicked into our computer. And then it can send out alerts. So if you are diabetic and you take your blood sugars and they're out of the parameters we set in, we can set out alerts for those things. Seizure monitoring, alerts if someone's having a seizure. If you have CHF and there's a sudden weight gain, there's all these things that we can send automatic messages about as alerts and warning as things happen. So that's the important thing to remember is that everything in our world involving technology is all um, it's progressive. It's not sitting back and waiting for something to go wrong or waiting for that alert. It's proactive is the word I'm trying to say. So a lot of times we can set up these homes and these medical equipments and these things to alert us before you even have the opportunity to let us know that something's wrong. We already know it. Simple communication. So easy ways for someone to call for help and receive help within seconds. So um, what our tablet offers is two-way communication within the push of a button. And you can do that through the use of a pendant. You can do that through an SOS button. We have smartwatches. We have it built into our tablet, which I'll talk to you about the end um, a little bit, but being able to call for help very quickly, having something that's visual and audible, so you know, hey, I don't have to be able to know the number. I just see this face and I can press that face and it's going to call that person. If someone does receive an alert that the door opened up at a weird time of night or my medical vital is off, you can call in and um, be face to face with that individual in under 6 seconds. Um, so quick, easy communication. So if you are aphasic or poor vision or any other adherence, we want it to be very easy for you to be able to get help, call for help, or receive help really quickly. The other thing I'll talk about as a holistic approach is working with other disciplines. So when we look at a person, we look at, okay, what other services are they receiving that we can help advocate with and help them. So we work with OT, PT, speech, behavioral therapists. If you're trying to get a job and you're with Voc Rehab, we can set up, rules and job tasks and reminders on how to do your job. If you're living at home for the first time or you're away at school, we have some that are in a specialty college programs that we've gotten assistive technology for to help them know their schedule, know where to go. We've helped with their reading comprehension through assistive technologies. If you can't learn written word and you're an audible learner, we have things to help you um, that will take a picture of any surface and it will read it back to you. So it could be a tablet, it could be your cell phone, it could be a computer. We've had people be able to respond to emails for the first time and respond to text for the first time because they could with they could hear what was being typed. So if you can't understand words, we have ways around that. But cognitive behavior, ABA programs, we deal a lot with. Just regular teachers. What do they have at school that they don't get to bring home, right? We can recreate that. We can put a communication device on there. We can work with that 4-year-old with autism, who needs speech therapy. So anyways, the idea is that we can customize around an individual. Not only that, but make it fluid so that we can grow with them as they grow. So if I have a 4-year-old who's autistic and right now their main goal is communication, after they get that down and learn how to communicate, it's on to learning, it's on to school, it's on to job, it's on to all these other things where we will have them for the rest of their lives and be able to help them. I just turned 52 on the 15th, and these little 4-year-olds, these little kids that we have, I'm going to be dead and gone, and they'll still be using our stuff because they're going to grow up, they're going to learn how to live on their own, and they're going to have assistive technology to follow them through. Speaking of that, for smart home and people who are just maybe wanting to be left alone for a couple hours or night supports, if they have help during the day, but maybe don't need as much help at night, or, maybe they're living alone. That's kind of our specialty is helping people that are trying to be independent, for the first time. But it's got to start really with, hey, can I even stay alone for a couple hours without supervision? So, we have smart home automation we can put in that, again, the SOS buttons. We have smart stoves that will literally, you can remotely control a stove through your phone. Are they sleeping? What are their fall risks? We have something now, it's so new, it's not even on this yet, but there's these new things called presence sensors where you can actually map out your house and the individual shows up as a blue dot and you can know, oh, they're laying in bed. Oh, they're in the bathroom. They're sitting on the couch. Oh, they're at the kitchen, or hey, they're standing at the stove and they're not supposed to be cooking. Elopement risk, autism. If they're standing at the front door, you want to be alerted that says, hey, they're at this area where they're an elopement risk. You should go check on them. But mom and dad, the biggest thing, I hear is, man, I just love to be able to close two eyes at the same time. Or I'd be able to love to go get my hair cut or go to the grocery store without worrying. All those little things we can help with and at least work towards those goals, even if it's just little steps at a time.
I think this is a lot of information. I'm going to give you a chance to take a breath and just say, I love how many different ways you're talking about using technology. When you came to talk to us the last time, you were talking about how to use some of that, and it's a different sensor technology, but how you use stuff to set up a parameter in your yard for somebody that you're concerned might leave the yard, but you
Yep.
want them to have some freedom. Can you just briefly talk about that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that was my next point is
Oh,
community and community
okay.
safety. So again, work and how to's. I want to get a job, or I have poor reading comprehension. I need some help in this way. Day program, GPS tracking and locating. To know somebody is in a certain parameter and that they're safe. Or allowing the high school kid, to go to his high school football game without his parents having to come with him, but being able to communicate back and forth and know what's going on or call for help if you need it, to let that person walk down to the store and go get a candy bar on their own, to know if there was an accident or if they got lost or anything like that. So, that and the other one is low vision, blindness or deafness out in the community. So what can we do to help that? And AI has done some amazing things now, but we have technologies for low vision, blind, hard of hearing, deaf, to help with community safety as well. Cognitive behavioral. I mentioned before about working with other disciplines, but we have so many people that have a secondary diagnosis of anxiety, depression, maybe even PTSD. So taking care of wellness, mental health, mental wellness, is something that we really work hard on. And believe it or not, there's some very interesting assistive technologies that are out there now, that focus on building brain neuroplasticity, and finding those weakened areas that cause those areas in the brain, that depression, that anxiety, whatever. And we can actually use activities to help strengthen those areas to decrease a lot of that stuff. Um, we have things that mimic medicine, using electromagnetic pulses that regulate the body. And that's all considered assistive technology. That's not medicine. It's AT. Monitoring sleep and how are they sleeping. And everybody knows about our Z Pod beds for autism. We have this really cool sensory bed. It's called a Z Pod. Everybody just oohs and ahs over that one. But there's all kinds of solutions. So mental health can be treated with assistive technology. It's all about milestones. It's all about achieving goals, right? So we want to set those goals. We want to be involved in the ISP plans. We want to be involved in what are their goals now and what will their goals be later. So we want to be able to build and achieve milestones and apply those teaching tools, that will help an individual to succeed in whatever. I don't care how minute of a skill it is. It could be cooking an egg, or it could be living alone. It can be small or it can be large. And then lastly, the socialization and fun that we can provide. So a little trickery here. So I keep going back to my one in particular 4-year-old, that we have. She was crazy about this character called Coco Melon, and she was autistic, and her main goal was speech. And I love telling this story because it just shows the diversity and the fluidity that we can do in carrying on development of an individual. So We assessed this individual and found out that, man, she would light up if she saw or heard Coco Melon. So what did we do? We customized one of our own tablets to a Coco Melon tablet. So we had every video game, we had every movie, we had every puzzle, we had everything that had to do with Coco Melon on there. And guess what? She got to take it to the speech therapist. And the only time she got to use this special little treat of a tablet was when she was in speech therapy. So it was a goal. It gave her something like, I can't wait to go work with my Coco Melon tablet. She's kind of over that since then, and we have moved on into other developmental stages. So, there's a difference between what looks like a game to somebody else and what is actually therapeutic to a disciplinarian, someone who's in charge of training and teaching and modeling behaviors and those kind of things. But the ability to just really simply be able to call my grandma or call an aunt or an uncle and be face to face with them with a nice, easy touch of the button. You can download any music and games that you want. Another thing we did, we had a group home of 8 individuals, and it was co-ed, and there was ages from like mid 20s all the way up into their 90s. One of our oldest gentleman happens to live in this house. um so there's 8 of them plus the staff 24/7. It's chaos, it is chaotic. So we were able to get them all a tablet that was customized around their needs, their likes, so they had a little world to go into and decompress. So if there was an argument going on or somebody was worked up, which would happen 24/7 there, they could go put on their headphones and disappear. They could watch their favorite game, they could watch their favorite movie, listen to their favorite music. They could call their family, and just it gave them a little world to hide into so they can decompress. But we also integrated these tablets so that they could all play games against each other, or they could have karaoke night. And so they could actually interact when they wanted to interact, but also disengage when they needed to disengage. So that being said, I'm going to keep this up, I think, while we talk to kind of let everybody absorb and take all this in. I know that was a lot really fast, but I never know how many people want to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, you know what? We've got a couple of questions, and I've already got questions. So,
Let's hit
really,
it.
I think some of the questions from the audience are really about accessing your services.
Mhm.
One is, and this was particularly about somebody that does not yet have Medicaid. How do you pay for these kind of resources? And the other one was, what are the first steps in accessing services like this? Do you call for an assessment? What does that look like?
Okay. So let's start with like 97% of our business is done through Medicaid waivers. Okay. So if you do not have that, we do have number one, sometimes it's in the way we think about what can be done. So if we have a budget issue, sometimes there's other things we can do that might be just as good and um, more budget friendly. We also do offer private pay. We do offer care credit. So we do have a couple. We've even self-financed and say, hey, you sign up with us for 2 years, we'll break those payments up into 2 years, interest free. We don't care, you know. So we'll do whatever we can to help. But the reality is, 97% of our business is all Medicaid waivers. Now, we are now in talks with the largest managed care organization in the country. And they have helped us to get into a couple of states recently, and there will be more to come. So, managed care organizations are another thing we are finally being able to punch a hole into. So, that right now is about to happen, but does not exist yet. Um, Hopefully that answers that question. Feel free to ask more if I need to go into more in depthness. But then Sharon, you asked me about what is the process, right? What happens? So the
Yeah.
most important thing to know is that all you have to do is think that assistive technology might be needed. Okay. We do free assessments. We like to get the care staff together. Typically, what happens in my world is we get a call from a case manager that says, hey, I got a client I think you can help. And that's all you need to know is that, look at this page in front of you and say, hey, are there any things, on here that you think we can help with? And that's it. Then I want help getting the care circle together. Who's involved in this individual's care? Who knows enough to have a knowledgeable opinion of what needs to happen? And who are go-to people, right? Who are everyday helpers who know the person best, that can help. And that sometimes is a house manager. It's not always just mom and dad. It could be, other caregivers. They might have, again, if they have OTPT speech, if they're struggling in school, I want their teacher on here. So we're going to get together, we're going to get the group together, and we're going to powwow, and we're going to figure out a plan. And we're going to figure out what assistive technologies we think we can help. Now, there's a new step into this because there's been some changes with the waivers where they put a cap on, and they've kind of frozen any new waivers from happening. But the next step to that is I put this story together, right? We create the necessary products we think, and everything we do has to have a reason for it, right? So there has to be an explanation as to why the individual needs this particular thing. So we put that story together and we get it back to the case manager. And the case manager would then, determine, oh, we can't afford all this. What's a priority now? And what can we do later on at the next IEP? Um, sometimes there's enough money for everything just fine. Other times, we have to figure out things and wait till next time for the rest. Private pay situation, again, that's, hey, I have this much money I can afford. I can do your 2-year program, or I can put it on care credit. Um, but what is that cost? So that is always, it needs to be included into the picture of what we do. Not so much when you have the waivers, but I mean, even still, there's a lot of times we don't have enough money. Even at $9,000, the cap
Hmm.
can go pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I love what you say about gathering the whole team. And then I think it's like anything else. You prioritize what you want and you look for what your options are. For example, the tracking app, my family and I use Life 360, and it's
Hmm.
free. Doesn't cost me
Yep.
anything to be able to know. I know where my mother went today. She lives in New Orleans. I'm 600 miles away, but I know she got home safely. Great. That one didn't cost me anything. Something else, I
Yep.
might think it's really worth it for me to have the medication dispenser. We have a
There you go.
family that's asking, she's excited about the idea that there's some assistive technology to deal with depression and anxiety. Can you dig into that a little bit more? Because I know, there's free apps for that, but there's also more intensive kinds of strategies. So what sorts of things do you see with that?
There's some pretty great stuff going on now. And again, anytime there's like an ABA or behavioral therapist involved, I'm going to lean on them, right, to tell me, hey,
Hmm.
what will help. But again, for instance, there is a headband that I have, and it's loaded with electrodes all across the brain. And you actually go into the app and you start exercising your brain for whatever it is you want. Do you want focus? Do you have anxiety? Do you want to be able to sleep better? So we have that. We have another technology called Happy, HAPBEE, and that uses electromagnetic pulses to mimic medicine. I use it myself for sleep. Um, if I wake up in the middle of the night, you can forget it. I already started working. I don't. Once my brain turns on, it's really hard to turn back off, particularly if I've had 4 or 5 hours of sleep, right? Um, there's that. There's another one called Apollo Neuro, which it uses sensory vibration to kind of regulate. So they figured out scientifically these pulse patterns. So if it senses anxiety, it will start integrating these pulses that help to regulate and bring you down, and kind of regulate any sort of behaviors. But I've had a behavior therapist call me and say, "Hey, can you download this app called Finch?" And I said, "Well, yeah, okay, what's going on? What's it doing?" "Well, I have two autistic twins, and I'm working with them on empathy. So, how to care about things. So, basically, this app rewards you for taking care of it. Everybody's seen them, right? I think back in my kids' day, it was the penguins. There was this penguin thing, and you took care of them, and then they just disappear. If you lost your points if you didn't take care of them or whatever. But he was working on a very specific thing. We've got a couple of people with anger issues. And we have this calming sort of temperature, how to lower, that temperature starts real high and it's shaking. It's like, okay, what do we do to lower that temp? Let's do some breathing. Let's do some calming. Think about this. And slowly that temperature goes down and down and down. So he's actually developed in his head a step-by-step program that he follows to deal with his anger and anxiety. So, um,
I
there
think
there's
that
there's many approaches.
biological stuff is so cool, and they're even doing some of that embedded with the anxiety now, which I love that it can be neuro and just be a sensor as opposed to an embedded kind of a thing, because that's so much more
Uh-huh.
invasive. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so many, and I think that's one of the things too, that it really helps to connect with an organization, whether it's Gray Matters or some other tech company, because we can't keep up with all the new technology that's happening. Aaron was telling me about these Oreos the last time we talked, which were part of that sensor technology he was talking about. They're really cool. I had not heard anything about them, but I could go back and research after he talked about it. So, it's really hard to establish how much it would cost for this, that, or the other. We have a question, and I just don't know you could answer it. It says, do you have a ballpark private pay estimate for some scheduling, instruction for medications, calls for help, that kind of thing? I'm wondering if maybe like a map habit app might be something that could cover some of that. I don't know, Aaron.
Yeah, everything she said, doesn't. So let me just kind of put this in perspective. So, what we work directly with Apple, and it's too dark. I'm sorry, you can't see this, but we work directly with Apple. And what looks like a standard tablet, it is not. We have full control over it, and we can go inside and we can customize it and we can make it do whatever we want. We can put protections on there so certain things don't show up, which might be a trigger or somebody could, get into your bank account or do anything like that. No, we control it from the back end and we fully back it up. And our phone list is controlled. So no one can just call in and be on your tablet, right? It's closed. You have to be admitted into the call list in order to be able to be called or to call into the tablet. Totally different. Now, that being said, everything you mentioned can be done on a regular iPad, right? There are apps that you can get into and do that. And Apple has FaceTime. So you can set up, as a matter of fact, I can show that to you.
Well, while you're talking about that, let me just ask this. Let's say a family thinks this is the right path for me. I want to start building year in and year out so my family member really gets it. What's the starting piece for the tablet? Because that's probably identifiable.
So I can't say it's just the tablet, but
Yeah,
because some people don't need the tablet, and there's things with, like, say they need smart home, right?
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have to have our specialty tablet in order to watch the doors or to have a smart stove alarm.
Gotcha.
So it's really bits and pieces. Now, if you
Okay.
want me to tell you, if you need our tablet and you're on Medicare waivers, this is going to cost you around 3 grand to start. And then every year after, well, this is kind of new, Sharon. I don't know if you know this, but we've kind of remodeled where we drop every year for 2 years, and then it kind of stabilizes. So that's just for us to customize and create and manage the tablet. Um, so again, it goes back to that, hey, I don't have waivers, right? So I have an iPad. What can we do with it? Right? So there's different ways of thinking about it. Maybe you only need doors and some security cameras, right? So maybe we're only talking about a couple $100 to protect, you got a 7-year-old who elopes, right? And you need some protection at the door and the windows, or you need a Ring doorbell, perimeter cameras. So if they do get out, you can see where they went. Just an angel scent sometimes alone will do the job because it has GPS tracking, it has fall, and angel sense now has room by room directions. So you can now map out a room, just like the presence sensors, the Oreo cookies we were talking about earlier. So sometimes it's just you don't have to go so far. I'm showing you the granddaddy of it all. But it doesn't have to be that way. There's always other budget friendly ways. So, um, that we can may not be as good, but it'll do.
We have a cool resource called the IDD Gateway Resource Guide that was created by the Productive Living Board, but it applies to all 4 counties in our region, and it lists all the assistive technology resources. So some of them are funded by your tax dollars through your Senate Bill 40 boards. Some of them are foundations that give free technology away, and you fill out an application. So if you're wondering about things like that, there's that available to you. We did have one last question I want to ask before people might have to jump off, and that is, how do I tap into some of this stuff if I'm homeschooling my child? And I think, Aaron, I guess I'm thinking you just go to your home resources, your home insurance and what have you, and maybe some of these foundations.
Yeah, so UCP Heartland is one we work closely with. We work close with Voc Rehab for people who, are trying to get a job. Varieties. There's a state program. It's not MOAT, Missouri Technology First, I think, with John. But there are grants, and I'm actually working with a gentleman now down in Springfield who's working on getting his own grants to help his community. So um, it takes a little homework as well. If you haven't had services or can't get services, there are some monies out there to be found.
Excellent. Yeah, I think, and this is another area where you can tap into the St. Louis Arc. Reach out to us. We can connect you to some resources. We can schedule a meeting with you and help you navigate through those applications. We could even do that at one of our paper parties. We have one of those coming up next week. We could sit down and fill out an application together. So those opportunities are there. Aaron, is there anything you want to close with that you think it's important for our guests
Yeah,
to
just
hear?
just don't be afraid to reach out. I mean, you can reach us on our website at graymattersalliance.com. It doesn't hurt you to ask a question. It doesn't hurt you to think that maybe I can help. It's free for me to find out if I can. So just all you have to do is not be afraid to ask. That's all.
Love it. That's exactly right. Don't ever be afraid to ask. We want you to be able to have technology be one part of your toolkit of supports because, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of free opportunities, and for some things, it really creates more independence. I think we're almost past the stage where people fear technology, and want to just lean into people supports because we've all seen how problematic that can be with staffing in our field right now. So technology can be your friend. Get somebody who really gets it, like Aaron, to support you on that journey, and reach out to us if you want to talk about it a little bit more. So thanks so much for coming today, everybody, and thank you, Aaron. As always, it was great.
Thanks. See y'all.